Okay guys, so welcome back again. So in this video, we'll be doing a quick tutorial on Google Maps API using React.js. And here we would be displaying the Google Maps here inside our window here, that is in the full screen mode. And then we will be also seeing that how do we get the directions renderer to render the directions from origin to destination. And we would also see that how do we get the total distance and total duration of that. And you would also learn that how to add markers to your Google Maps. So this is the demo of the application. So currently we have a map here that is centered on Eiffel Tower and we see a marker here. So if we drag the map and if we click this button back again, so we see that we are panning back to the center again. So if we click on the origin and if we simply type here Eiffel Tower and the destination would be, let's say, Paris. That may be the center of Paris, and if I click here, that is calculate route, then we see a route is displayed between point A, that is origin, and point B, that is destination, and we have a total distance here and the total duration here. And if we choose the origin to be Apple Park and the destination to be Google Amphitheater, then our map would move to that location and we would be seeing the directions here. So that's what we are going to do in this video. So for this video, what I've done is that I've created a very basic React application, which you can download here on this repo here, that is this GitHub link. And there you can select the branch that is called startup branch to code along with me. And then inside the React application or the React package that I created, using the create react app, what I've done is that I've stripped down all the CSS files here, and the only files remain here are the index.js file and the app.js file. And for this application, what I've done is that I'm using Chakra UI, though you can use any UI library you want, or you can use the plain old HTML and CSS. But since it's not a video about UI, I would be focusing on the Google Maps API. And one more thing that I've done inside this project, that is this React project, I've installed this dependency called React Google Maps /API. So if we have a look at this npm package here on the browser, we see that this is the actual package you need to install, though there are a couple of different npm packages that you can install, but I would recommend you using this package because it provides you with great functionality for the direction service also and for the directions renderer also, so that you do not have to worry about other packages because all the Google Maps APIs are built into the single package, and we would be seeing that how to use this. So for this project, what you need to do, you need to create a new project on Google Cloud Platform. And if you already don't have a project on Google Cloud Platform, then you can create one. It's super simple to do. And then you need to go inside this tab here, that is APIs and services. And here we would be needing to enable the Google Maps API. So let's click here, that is enable Google Maps API and services. And here I would be simply selecting this Maps JavaScript API. So let's select this Maps JavaScript API and let's click on enable here. And it would enable a couple of things, that is the Maps API as well as the Directions API and the Places API, because we would be using the Places autocomplete feature also. So it might take a couple of seconds or more to enable this API. So we see that this Maps JavaScript API has been enabled, and we might also need to enable this Directions API as well as this Places API, because we are going to use the Places autocomplete feature. So let's click on Directions API and we need to enable this also. So let's enable this also. And then we need to enable one more API, that is the Places API. And that's all what we need to do inside this enabling APIs thing, because we have all the 3 APIs necessary for our application and enabled here. So now what I'll do, I'll go to this Maps platform, or I'll click here. And here what I need to do, I need to go inside this APIs and services tab once more. And here I need to click on credentials to create our API key for this Google Maps thing. So here what I'll do, I'll simply click on create credentials. So let's click here, create credentials, and here I would be selecting the API key, and it would be creating an API key in a moment. So let me copy this key, and don't take time to use this API key, because the time you'll be watching this video, this key would have already been deleted. So let's close this. And now what I'll do, I'll go to this API key 2 which has been generated. I'll rename this key to Google Maps API key, simply like this. And if you want to restrict this key to use a particular service, then you can click here and you can restrict it by selecting the type of APIs you want to use. But for this demonstration, I'm not restricting this API key. So let's click on save here. And let me copy the key here once again. So let's click on show key and let me copy this key here. So let me copy it to my clipboard and let me close here. And that's all what you need to do inside the Google Cloud Platform. So let's go back to our application, and here the .env.local file, what I've done created a environment variable by the name of React app, because we need to expose this variable to the client side. So therefore I've prepended it with React app, and then the value of this variable would be this thing here, that is the key from the API from the Google Cloud Console. So let me copy this environment variable in my clipboard, and let's save this. And if I start this application by doing yarn start, or if you are using, you can simply do npm start, but I'm using yarn here. And let me minimize the terminal so that the application is always started in the background. So this is what you see when you start the application. So let's go back to our application. Let me minimize the terminal. So let's go to our app.js file, and firstly what I'll do, I'll simply remove the background image and the background position, because they were only for styling purposes. So now we are at this stage here, that is the background is removed, and now what I want to do is that I want to display the map in the full screen window, that is 100% of the viewport width and 100% of the viewport height. So what I'll do, I'll go back, and here we have the basic UI ready, and inside this box, that is inside this box, I'm going to display my Google Map. So Google Map box. And as you can see that it has a position of absolute in its parent, and it has a height of 100% and width of 100%, and the parent has a height of 100% viewport width, a viewport height, and 100% viewport width. So this is where we are going to render our Google Map so that it takes the full height of the container. So before doing so, what I need to do, I need to use a couple of things from the package that we installed or was previously installed, that is React Google Maps API. What I need to do, I need to import a couple of things from that package. So import something from at React Google Maps API, and what we need to import first is the use.js API loader. So let me import this thing here, that is use.js API loader, and basically this is a hook which provides us with with a variable called is loaded, whether the map script is loaded on the browser or not. So let's save this, and to use this hook, what we need to do, we need to go inside our app.js file, and here we can use this hook, that is const something equal to use.js API loader, and here it takes in an object where we simply need to provide in the Google Maps API key, and the Google Maps API key can be read from the environment variable, that is this environment variable. Let me copy it again. So let's copy this and let's paste it here like this, and this returns us with the is loaded variable, whether the map script is loaded or not. And inside a typical HTML application, you would be pasting in the script for the Google Maps, but that is what this script or this hook is actually doing. It is simply loading the Google script from the CDN to be used inside our application. So firstly we'll check, that is if not loaded, then what we want to do, we want to simply display a skeleton or something like that, that the map service is loading or something like that. So for that I'm going to use a chakra UI thing, that is to display a skeleton here, that is some loading is in progress. So if we save this application, and if I simply, and we need to return this, not like this, so it should be return like this. So if I simply remove this exclamation here, that is if the map is loaded, then we would be seeing this skeleton text here. So if I save this application and let's go back, so we see that we have a loading skeleton here, which means that the API key has been loaded inside our application. So this should be this not if is loaded, that is if the script is not loaded or till the script is loaded, we want to simply return something here, or you can simply display loading here, but I'm simply displaying a skeleton object here. So let's save this, and now once this map is this is loaded is true, which means that we come here, that is inside this return block, then we can simply display our Google Map inside this box. So to display our Google Map, what we need to do, we need to import one more thing from here, that is Google Map from this package again. So let's save this, and for this application what I'm going to use, I'm going to, or let me write it first. So Google Map inside this box here, so Google Map like this, and here we need to do a couple of more things like displaying markers or directions like this. So that's what we are going to do inside this Google Maps thing here, and this Google Maps takes in a couple of things. Firstly, we need to provide in the center for the map. That is where the map should be centered. So for that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy one center object from here, and I'm going to paste it here at outside this app.js file or inside this functional component. So the center would be the center here, and this is basically the center of Eiffel Tower. So let me copy the center here. So the Google map should be centered on this Eiffel Tower. So let me pass in center here, and then we need to provide in the zoom level, that is how much it should be zoomed to. So let's provide in a zoom level of 15. And then if we save this, we would see that we don't see the map here, and that is because we need to provide this map container a style, that is to provide a view box to this Google map. So for that, what I can do, I can simply provide an map container style, and here I can simply give it a width of 100%. So 100%, that is the 100% of the parent, and height of again 100%, like this. So let's save this. And if we go back to our browser, we see that our Google Maps has been loaded, and we see that we are getting this error here, that is for development purposes only. And this is because I have not enabled billing in my Google project here. So if we have a look at the console here, we see that we get a message here that says that we need to enable billing for this Google Cloud project, so which I'm not going to do so. But for tutorial purposes, I'm simply going to use a different API key. So let me do that in a moment. So as soon as I used a different API key, we see that our Google Maps has been loaded here, and we need to fix the Z index of this UI element, and that is very easy to fix. So we need to simply go to this box here, and we need to give it a Z index of, let's say, modal. And this is all Chakra UI thing. You don't need to worry about this thing here. And now we see that we have a Google Maps displayed inside our application. And now if you want to configure that, you want to see this maps and satellite buttons and so on and so forth. So that is very easy to fix. So if I click here to terrain, then our maps should be loaded. Oh, we can see the terrain here. And if I click here satellite, we see that our satellite map is displayed here. So let's remove this thing here, and let's remove also terrain here. And now if you want to go into full screen, you can simply click this button, and now we are inside the full screen mode. And now let's go back, and now we have these buttons here, that is the zoom level control buttons and the street view thing here, that is this kid here. So if you want to disable this controls here, that is this map satellite and this full screen and this baby here and these zoom controls, what you can do, you can go to your Google map here, and here you can pass in some options here. So let me pass in some options here like this, and here I can simply say zoom control to be false, like this, street view to be, or street view control to be false, and then map type control to be false, and full screen control to be false. And let's save this, and we see that all the controls are disabled here. That is, we do not see a map type option here, we do not see a full screen control, and that street view baby here, and the zoom controls here. So now what we want to do here is this, that we want to display a marker on the center here, that is on Eiffel Tower. So how do we do that? That is pretty simple to do. So let's go to this package here, that is the import statement from this package, and here we need to import one more thing, and that is the marker object or the marker component. So let's import this marker component, and let's scroll down, and here inside this Google Maps component, what I'll do, I'll simply display the marker component here like this, and the only required prop to this marker component is the position attribute, or the position prop here. And for the position, I can simply pass in center here again, because that is where we want to center the marker. So let's save this, and if we go back, we see that we have a marker here at the Eiffel Tower itself. So this is how easy it is to add marker to this position. And in a similar way, you can add as many markers to this Google Maps component as you want. It is not only limited to one marker, so you can add hundreds of markers here like this. So it would work in the same way, but all the 10 markers is added on the same position. So that's why we are only seeing the single marker, because the position for each of the markers is same. So let's go back and let's remove the extra markers from here. And now what we want to do is this, that let's save this application. And what we want to do is this, that if I drag this map, and if we want to go back to the center here, that is this Eiffel Tower, I want to click on this button here, that is the icon button here which we see. So as soon as we click this button, currently it is displaying us an alert, but what we want to do, we want to pan the map back to the center. So to do that, it is pretty simple to do. So let's go back. So for that, what I need to do, I need to create a state object or a state variable for Google Maps to control the map which is loaded from this Google Maps component. So for that, what I'll do, I'll create a state variable here at the very top of our application, and here I'll simply say use state like this, and here I would simply say it map, and the initial state would be null. That is, initially the map would be null because no map might be loaded, and we need to import use state from React. So we have already done this here, and now I would show you a trick, that is how to get auto completions on this map state variable in a moment. But first, let's use the set map function here to set the maps to this state variable map. So inside this Google Map component, we have a callback here, that is on load event. And here what we can do, here we have the map here, because as we see that this onload map onload function provides us with a map objects, and so we can say map like this. And then what we want to do, we want to simply set the map to this map that is coming inside this onload event. So let's save it. And now what we want to do, inside this button, that is this button that is this button here. Let me see where it is. So this is this button here, that is displaying us an alert of 1 2 3, which we already saw in a moment. So what we want to do, we want to simply pan the map back to the center. So what we can do, we can use the map object here, that is the map or the map state variable dot pan to, and we see that we do not get any auto completion for this map here. So a basic trick to use types inside your JavaScript files is to use JS docs. So it is pretty simple to do. What we can do, instead of providing null like this, we can provide in the type of variable this map is. So what we can do, we can simply define the type for this map variable like this, that is /* and then it ends with a single star and /. And here we can simply say add type like this, and the type would be google.maps.googlemap, simply like this. And this null should be inside its own braces here like this. And this should not be Google Map, it should be map like this. And let's save this. And if we go here to this on click event, and now if we remove this thing here, what we can do, we can simply use map dot pan to, and we see that we are getting all the auto completions that are provided by the Google Maps thing. So we have the map object here, so we can simply use map.pan to. So if we simply use set center, it will set the center of the map to the center to this center which you are going to provide. Otherwise we can use pan to, which simply slowly drags on the map or it animates the map, so it is better to use pan to. So pan to, and here we need to provide in the center, that is the lat long object. So basically this center is a lat long object here, that is, it has a latitude and it has a longitude. So that's all what we need to do. So if we save this and if we go back to our application, so let's see, we scrolled here and if we click here, that is on this button, so we see that the map has panned back to this center here. So if we scroll here, we should be spanning to this center here. So this is how easy it is to use this panning thing on the map. And now let's have a look at how do we use the places autocomplete API inside our application or inside our input elements. That is, as soon as we type here, we want to get auto completions from Google, so that we can select those options. So for that, what we need to do, we need to go back to our application, and inside this thing here, that is inside this use JS API loader, we need to provide in one more thing here, and that is the libraries. That is, what all libraries do we want to use, and this is an array here, and we can use here a couple of different libraries, but we are interested in to use the places API. So I'm simply going to select this places thing here. That is, when the Google Maps script loads, we also want that script to enable places API. So that's what we are doing here. So let's save this. And now to have auto completion inside our input boxes, what we can do, we can use one more component from this React package or this React Google Map package, and that is the autocomplete component. So autocomplete like this. And then the only thing we need to do inside our inside our input components to get auto completions, we need to simply wrap our input components, because these are our two input components that are rendered here. That is let's refresh it. That is this input component, that is origin, and this destination. So the only thing you need to do is that you only need to wrap your input component with this autocomplete component. So here I would simply do autocomplete like this, and then I would simply wrap this input component inside this autocomplete component. And the same thing I'm going to do for this input component, that is for the destination input component, and I'm going to wrap the input component for the destination to be wrapped with this autocomplete component. So as soon as we save this, and if we go back to our application, we would see the magic happening here. So as soon as I type Eiffel Tower, we see that we have an autocomplete box here that is powered by Google, and we can select here anything we would like to have. So let's select here Eiffel Tower, and we see that we have this Eiffel Tower here. And similarly for the destination, if we provide in Paris here, we see that we have autocompleted places autocomplete feature enabled inside our application, that is again powered by Google. And if you wanted to use this component by your own, that is you want to display this places rendering according to your UI design, then you need to do a couple of more things. But this is how I would keep it for this video. That is, we see a select option powered by Google here. So let's select France here. And now what we want to do, we want to calculate the route whenever these two input boxes are filled with the places autocomplete. So I want to click here, that is calculate route, and I want to display that route over this map. And I also want to display the distance here and the duration here. So for that, I need to do a couple of things inside our application. So firstly, let's create a couple of more variables here, or a couple of more references here. So here we need to create one more state variable, and that is the directions response. That is whatever directions response we are getting back whenever we are calling the directions APIs. So let me use the user state snippet once more. So user state, and we would be calling it directions response. That is whatever response we are getting when we are calling the directions API, and the initial state would be null like this. And then we need to create a couple of more state variables, that is the distance and the duration. So use a state, so distance, and initially it would be an empty string, and then use a state once again. So it would be duration, initially it would be an empty string. And then we need to create a couple of refs for our input elements. I'm not using state variables for the input elements, but I'm using refs here. So I would simply say const origin ref would be equal to use ref like this. And similarly, we would be having a destination ref. So destination ref would be equal to use ref once again like this. And again, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a type for this ref object so that we have better auto completions in VS Code. So the type of this ref, of this origin ref or this input element ref, would be this HTML input element ref like this. And you can copy the types here from my repo also. And this is only for better auto completion inside VS Code. So now we have defined the origin ref and the destination ref, and let me provide in these refs to our input elements. So let me provide in a ref here. So ref would be origin ref like this, and for the destination ref, let me provide in a ref again. So this would be called destination ref, simply like this. And this is all what you need to do for this thing to work. So let's save this. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a function here that would calculate the route. So I would create a function here that says calculate route, if you call it that way. And when do we want to call that function? Whenever the input element is not empty. So we would check that if origin ref dot current dot value is equal to empty string, or destination ref dot current dot value equal to an empty string, then what do we want to do? We want to simply return here. That is, we do not want to proceed ahead in this function. Otherwise, what we need to do, we need to create an object of this direction service from the loaded script. Though there is one more thing inside this package, that is direction service provided by this package itself, that is React Google Maps API, but that is a bit typical to use and that is not recommended because it's too complicated to use. So therefore I am going to use the plain JavaScript version of that direction service. So I would simply say const direction service equal to new google.maps.direction service, like this, and then it gives us an error, but that is not an error because the maps script is already loaded. So I would simply disable this no undefined for this line, that is I would simply disable the ES linting which we are getting here. And now what we want to do, we want to call this direction service to get the results. So we can say const results equal to await direction service dot route, and here we need to pass in an object containing the origin. So origin would be simply origin ref dot current dot value, that is the value inside the input element, and we need to also provide in the destination, and here we can simply say destination ref dot current dot value, and then we need to provide in one more thing, that is the travel mode, that is to get the directions of the travel mode. And here we have a couple of directions here, but I'm simply going to use in the travel mode with driving directions. So google.maps.travel mode dot not transit mode but travel mode, so travel mode dot driving, like this. So this is what I'm going to use here. And now since we are using await here, because this route returns as a promise, so if we hover over this, we see that it returns as a promise that gives us direction results. So since we are using await here, so we need to make this function as async, like this. And now the error is gone. And again, this is squeaking at us that we have Google is not defined, that is namespace Google is not defined. So let's remove that with ESLint here, that is no undefined for this line. And now what we can do, whenever we get back the results, so what we can do, we can simply set the directions response to this result. So set directions response to this results thing here. And then we can do one more thing, that is if we, or let me log in the results here, or let me do it directly. So set distance, so we can get the distance from the routes thing here, that is results.routes, and we want to call in the 0th route because there can be several directions from one place to another, so we are using only the first direction. So directions.routes.legs, and then again we target the 0th element, and then we get the distance here and dot text. And if you use the value thing here, so distance dot value would simply return you the distance in meters. So I'm using the text here, that is the human readable value, whether it's in kilometers or it's in meters, and it would be depending on the locale of the application where it is used. And here for the duration, I would simply use in the same thing here, or let me copy it like this, and here I would simply say set duration would be not distance.text but duration.text, simply like this. And again, if you were using the duration.value, then this value would be in seconds, and then you can display it according to your choice, but I'm simply calling it like this. And now we also want to have a function that can clear this route. So function clear route, it's a super simple function, that is if someone clicks on this button here, that is this times icon or this times button, then the route should be cleared from the map, as well as this input field should be set to an empty string. So that is pretty simple to do. So here we can simply say set directions response to be null again, set distance to be an empty string, set duration to be an empty string, and then origin ref dot current dot value would be an empty string, and the same goes for the destination ref, that is for the destination element. And now when do we want to call these functions, that is calculate route and this clear route? It should be called on these two buttons, that is the calculate route button here, that is this calculate route button. So let's call that function here. So on click should be calculate route, and for this button, instead of displaying an alert, it should be clear route, simply like this. And now if we have a look at our Google Maps here, and if we type here anything, we have only set the directions inside this direction response object here, or this state variable here. That is this state variable. So where it is? So to this state variable, but we have not rendered these directions on the map. So for that, what we need to do, we need to import one more component from this Google Maps API package, and that is called directions renderer, like this. And now when do we want to display the directions renderer inside our Google map? So let me remove this thing from here. So we only want to display the directions renderer inside our map only when do we have directions response. So if we check that, if we have directions response, then only we want to display our directions renderer, simply like this. And now this directions renderer takes in a couple of props here. So, and the props would be directions response. So directions response, and that's all what you need to do. So let's save this and let's see that in action. So currently we see that we have this map here. So let me type here Eiffel Tower like this. Let me choose the destination to be Paris. Like this, and as soon as I calculate route, let's see what happens. So let me click here. So we see that we got a route here, that is point A would be your origin and point B would be your destination, and we see that we have a route here. And in the same way, you can calculate the route from Apple Park in Cupertino to, let's say, Google Amphitheater. So let's calculate the route, and our map would be moved to that location. So let's calculate the route, and before calculating the route, we see that we do not see the distance and duration here, and that is because we have not displayed these state variables, that is distance and duration, anywhere. So let's display them also. So inside this this text here, we can say distance like this, and for the duration, let me pass in the duration like this. So let's save this. And let's try to calculate the thing here, that is this calculate route. So let's calculate the route here. So we see that our route has been calculated from point A to point B, and this time the distance is in miles and the duration is in minutes. And if we were in Europe, the distance was in kilometers, if I'm not wrong. So we can click here, that is to clear the routes. So let's click here, that is clear the route. And the route is cleared from the map. And if you want, we can go back to our map center here. That is this center here, like this. And again, if we want to calculate the route, so let me click on Paris, France, and let's go to Eiffel Tower this time. So Eiffel Tower, Paris, France. So let's calculate the route. And this time we see that we again have a route here, and the distance is displayed in kilometers and duration is 18 minutes. And again, if we want, we can clear the route. So this is how easy it is to integrate Google Maps inside your React application. So guys, that's all about this video. So if you have liked the video, do hit the like button. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel, do subscribe to our channel. So thank you. Bye-bye. Tata. Take care and have a good day and have a great day.